As far as we know, that was the last person to see Tammy alive.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most troubling crimes from the 1980s that were never solved.
The joke is on you. Ha, ha.
The Monster with 21 Faces.
A poisoned apple. Sleeping death.
No, this isn't really a monster. Fear not. It's the alias of a mysterious criminal group that terrorized Japan in the mid-1980s through blackmail, threats, and alleged food tampering. Their campaign began in 1984 with the kidnapping of a food company executive, followed by letters taunting the police and threatening further conglomerates. They claimed to have poisoned various candies and snacks, leading to massive recalls and public paranoia. The group also sent shocking messages to the authorities, flaunting their ability to evade capture, and that is exactly what they did. Despite an intense investigation, the group abruptly announced their retirement from crime in 1985, leaving Japan and its authorities utterly bewildered.
Police shall never catch me because I have been too clever for them. I look like the description passed out only when I do my thing. The rest of the time I look entirely different.
The murder of Adam Walsh.
Serial killer Ottis Toole confessed twice but was never tried for the murder. At the time, the Walshes told us Toole wasn't important, saving kids was.
One of the most heinous crimes of the 1980s occurred on July 27, 1981, when Adam Walsh was abducted from a Florida department store and murdered. The crime horrified the nation and pushed his father, John Walsh, to become a leading advocate for missing children. Investigators eventually focused on serial killer Ottis Toole, who confessed multiple times to killing Adam.
We needed to know. We needed to know. And today we know.
Although Toole was never formally tried, the case was officially closed in 2008. Still, major doubts linger. There was little physical evidence tying Toole to the murder. His story was inconsistent. He was never formally charged. He was known for making false confessions, and he even recanted said confession. These uncertainties fuel ongoing debate, and many people continue to doubt Toole's involvement in the murder.
Toole had confessed to killing Adam as far back as 1983, and though he later recanted, his niece would tell John he confessed again on his deathbed. He was never officially charged.
The Abduction of Christopher Abeyta.
In tonight's special report, a local family is still holding on to hope that their missing son will be found after more than 2 decades.
On July 15, 1986, 7-month-old Christopher Abeyta vanished from his crib in his family's Colorado Springs home. His parents discovered him missing around 6 a.m., and the front door of the house was found partially open. Investigators considered the possibility of an abduction by someone close to the family, especially since his father Gil had recently ended an affair with a woman who had a history of break-ins.
Gil says he thinks Bradshaw wanted a lasting relationship with him, and Christopher got in the way.
I wasn't going to abandon him, or anything. I had no other plans, and so she knew that. She knew how I felt, and he became in the way.
However, no charges were ever filed. Despite nationwide searches, age-progressed photos, and extensive media coverage, no confirmed trace of Christopher has ever been found, and DNA testing in later years has failed to link him to any potential matches. His parents both passed away without answers, and today, nearly 4 decades later, the case remains unsolved.
Colorado Springs police are still searching for answers in a tragic missing persons case that's now nearly 40 years old.
The murder of Lisa Hessian.
This case has remained with me for 40 years. There's just a handful that you never forget, and this is one of those.
14-year-old Lisa Hessian of Lee, England, was attacked while walking home from a friend's party on December 8, 1984. She never made it, and her strangled body was found in an alley about 200 meters from her house. Police launched a large investigation at the time, speaking to hundreds of people and searching the greater Manchester area.
Police revealed that in the 3 to 4 months before her murder, there had been 3 other attacks on young women, all within 1 mile of where Lisa was killed.
But despite the extensive efforts of the police, her killer was never found. And while recent forensic developments have provided investigators with some new leads, there is still no suspect in the case. Greater Manchester police still appeal for information to this day, hoping that advances in science or some fresh witness accounts will eventually lead to answers for her family.
Lisa was Christine's only child. She continued to campaign to try and find the truth, to try and get justice. And sadly, she died in 2016 without getting that.
The disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi.
The Vatican's promoter of justice said he is looking for all the documentation in the Holy See that is related to the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi in 1983.
The story of Emanuela Orlandi is a wild one with plenty of twists. The Italian teenager vanished on June 22, 1983, after leaving a music lesson in Rome. Over the decades, her case has been entangled with theories involving organized crime, secret services, the Vatican, and even the KGB.
In these 4 decades, several hypotheses have come to light about how the 15-year-old Italian girl disappeared without a trace in the center of Rome.
Shortly after Orlandi's abduction, anonymous callers associating with a terrorist organization demanded her release in exchange for the freedom of Mehmet Ali Agca, the attempted assassin of Pope John Paul II. However, investigators learned that this was merely a misdirection and that her kidnapping had nothing to do with Ali Agca. Despite decades of investigation, alleged sightings, and even the opening of tombs in various Vatican cemeteries, no trace of Orlandi has ever been found.
Orlandi expressed his satisfaction with his meeting at the Vatican. He said that in 40 years, no one had ever listened to him as they did in that encounter. He explained he was able to make all his petitions known and even hand over a list of names of people in high positions who he believes may have some information about what happened to his sister in 1983.
The Colonial Parkway Murders.
The agencies are sharing information on this case, the killing of a couple the year before, and 2 other double homicides committed in the next 2 years. They are collectively known as the Colonial Parkway Murders, and none of them are solved or closed.
Between 1986 and 1989, a series of killings known as the Colonial Parkway Murders terrorized the American state of Virginia. At least 10 people, often young couples, were murdered along the scenic Colonial Parkway, a dark and remote stretch of road connecting historic sites like Jamestown and Yorktown.
I miss him. Miss him very much.
The area is known for being a lover's lane, and the young victims were typically found in or near their vehicles. In 2024, authorities conclusively linked 2 of the canonical Parkway murders to a local fisherman named Alan Wilmer Sr., who died back in 2017. However, it's still unclear who murdered the others, whether it was Wilmer, an accomplice, or some other unconnected killer altogether.
A major break in a cold case homicide. Police identified a Northern Neck man, Alan Wilmer Sr. Authorities say he killed 3 people nearly 3 decades ago. It was DNA that ultimately links him to the brutal murders.
The disappearance of Tammy Lynn Leapert.
Tammy, what's the problem? Honey, talk to me. Tammy?
I saw something awful.
What?
Something really bad.
Honey, what did you see?
I wasn't supposed to see it.
Known for her beauty, Tammy Lynn Leapert was an aspiring actress, briefly appearing in the classic crime drama Scarface. However, the movie was released posthumously, as Leapert mysteriously disappeared on July 6, 1983.
According to Tammy's friend, he dropped her off at approximately 3 p.m. on July 6, 1983, 5 miles from her house. She was barefoot and carried no purse.
Leapert's life took a troubling turn before she vanished. Friends and family reported that she began acting paranoid, convinced that someone wanted to harm her. And on the fateful day of July 6th, she was dropped off at a Cocoa Beach parking lot by a friend and was never seen again. However, a local detective received 2 anonymous phone calls after she disappeared, informing him that Leapert was still alive and that she had gone to school to become a nurse. Unfortunately, there was never a follow-up on these mysterious calls.
During a breakdown on the set of Scarface, Tammy Lynn had mentioned money laundering. According to an official at the U.S. Customs Service, dozens of money laundering cases in Florida were under federal investigation at that time. Some call it sheer coincidence. Tammy's mother believes it is no coincidence at all.
The Circleville Letters.
For the past 18 years, residents in and around Circleville, Ohio, have received literally thousands of bizarre letters and postcards. They represent an insidious campaign of character assassination, which some believe has left one man dead and another unfairly imprisoned.
Beginning in 1977, residents of Circleville, Ohio began receiving anonymous and threatening letters that exposed secrets about their personal lives. And while they began in the late 70s, the threat really ramped up in the 80s. The most infamous case involved school bus driver Mary Gillespie, who was accused of having an affair with the school's superintendent.
I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious.
In 1983, Mary discovered a booby-trapped gun that was allegedly intended to kill her. The weapon was traced to her brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, who was convicted of attempted murder. But the letters continued while Freshour was in prison, casting significant doubt on his guilt. To this day, the author remains unknown, and the Circleville Letters remain one of America's most baffling unsolved mysteries.
In May of 1994, Paul Freshour was finally granted parole after serving 10 years. To this day, he staunchly maintains his innocence, and he is sure that the real criminal is still at large.
The Keddie Cabin Murders.
But the rainfall can't wash away the horror of what happened on this now empty lot in the tiny resort town of Keddie 35 years ago.
Back in April of 1981, the small town of Keddie, California was shaken by the brutal murders of Sue Sharp, her son John, and John's friend Dana Wingate, who were found dead in cabin 28 of the Keddie resort. Sue's daughter Tina was also missing from the scene, and her remains were discovered years later in a remote location.
An envelope with a cassette recording of a man telling a sheriff's dispatcher a body found 3 years after the murders could be that of one of the victims, Tina, who was kidnapped from the scene. Investigators believe it was no random call. It came on the 3-year anniversary of the killings.
The victims were found bound, beaten, and stabbed. Yet strangely, some children that were also in the home at the time were left unharmed. Despite multiple suspects, no one was ever convicted. The investigators were heavily criticized for their performance, having mishandled evidence and dismissed potential leads. Even with modern DNA testing and reopened inquiries, the case remains unsolved.
I actually put in my mind that I'll probably go to my grave, that it will never be solved. And then when all this is coming out, it brought up the hope again.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The Chicago Tylenol Murders.
This crime captivated the nation, put the nation on its ear, and had probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of households going through their medicine cabinets to try to determine, do we have poison in our house?
Throughout the fall of 1982, the greater Chicago area was shaken by a string of sudden deaths that were traced to Tylenol capsules laced with potassium cyanide. 7 people, including children and adults, died after ingesting the poisoned capsules. Investigators discovered the tampering occurred after the products had already left the factory, indicating that someone had poisoned the bottles in stores.
When you opened a bottle of Tylenol in the early 1980s, or any product for that matter, you didn't see this protective seal. Now it's the law because of what happened in the Chicago area starting on September 29, 1982.
Johnson & Johnson swiftly recalled millions of bottles and introduced tamper-evident packaging, setting new safety standards in the pharmaceutical industry. But despite a massive investigation and even the might of the FBI, no suspect was ever convicted of the murders. A man named James Lewis was convicted of extortion for demanding money from Johnson & Johnson, but he was never traced to the poisonings themselves.
Lewis spent 11 years in prison for the shakedown, but through the decades has denied being responsible for the murders.
I think the Tylenol murderer is still out there dancing in the streets.
Do you think you have the answers? Let us know in the comments below.
She disappeared without a trace.